All right. Welcome to the Hard Count. I'm your host, CJ James. My guy Connie, usually with me every Tuesday. Couldn't make it today, family emergency. So he'll be back with us next week to break down the Pro Bowl and the Super Bowl. But today I'm joined with Matt Scora, host of the Real MCS Sports Podcast with Caleb Connett. Also, Prime Time with Wise Cheese and Brian Hort, covering all Sunday games throughout the NFL season. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Nothing much, doing really good here. First day of February, already 1 month into 2022, and it's a
Yeah.
great day to be a Packers fan because our special teams coordinator has been fired. Good riddance to you, buddy. You should have been gone week 5, you bum. At least you're gone. Now, we hate people losing jobs in real life, but there's an exception. Good riddance to you. But overall, it's a great Tuesday. Definitely going to be excited to be talking about all the news that went down in the NFL because it's quite a scene. First with TB12 retiring, then Flores suing the NFL, and then McDaniels getting a job. It's going to be exciting. I'm thrilled to talk all about it.
Yes, sir. Let's just start there. Let's start with Brian Flores. It's the most recent news, filing a class action lawsuit against the NFL. Three teams were mentioned in the lawsuit: Denver Broncos, the New York Giants, and of course the previous team he was coaching for the last 3 seasons, the Miami Dolphins. Now, he talked a lot about it's about a 50-plus page lawsuit. I didn't read all of it. Saw some of the notes that Adam Schefter tweeted out over the last few hours. Talked about the racial hiring process across the NFL, how it's unjust, and it's not as fair as opposed to some other coaches, the lack of diversity going on in the NFL when it comes to head coaching jobs or also GM jobs and coordinator jobs as well. I just want to get your thoughts on that, and I'll give my thoughts, and we'll see what happens with what's going on.
Yeah, man. I just want to say I think this is really ballsy what Flores is doing. I mean, this is one of those to where the allegations that he includes that the New York Giants were quote unquote interviewing, which basically means they already have their guy and choosing Brian Daboll as their new head coach. Then he follows up with another allegation of the Miami Dolphins owner Stephen Ross offering to pay 100 grand for every loss to improve their draft position. And then another allegation was Ross setting up a quote unquote impromptu recruitment meeting between Flores and a quote unquote prominent quarterback. Those are some serious allegations to make if you're Brian Flores. And one thing is for certain, and it's kudos to him, for standing up for what he believes in. But if these allegations are proven false, you ain't going to get another head coaching job again. I mean, you're gonna lose a lot of trust, with front offices and a bunch of individuals. But if all those allegations are proven correct, he'll find himself another job. I don't think he'll find another job this year. He's probably gonna be fighting this class action lawsuit. But if he fights and wins, people are gonna look at Brian Flores like, yeah, man, you know what? He was right. Now we got to give him an opportunity. But it's very ballsy what Flores is doing, and if it's something that he believes in and he thinks he has a case in winning it, by all means, go ahead and go for it. My personal stance is, it shouldn't matter what skin you are to be hired. It's all about if you put up the stats, if you have the resume, you should be able to get the job. Brian Flores should be able to get a job. He's had 2 seasons of over 500 football with the Miami Dolphins. He has slowly but surely improved them, in the 3 years he was there. I personally think he should have a job, but if there's a problem with the actual hiring processes that is going down, then something has to be changed about it. But that's just my overall thoughts on it. If Flores has a chance to win the case, go for it. And just overall, if you're the best at your job, you should easily have an opportunity to get a job. And I think Flores has the capabilities to get the job. And it was wrong for the Dolphins to fire him.
I was a little shocked. I was coming home, saw the news. I was like, he, filed a lawsuit. I was like, wow, like what's going on? And then after, hearing everything, seeing stuff that's going on ESPN, Sports Center, it's covering it, NFL Network as well. It's a big story. I agree with what you said. It shouldn't matter what your skin color is, if you're qualified or if you've, been a part of teams that have had a lot of success. You should have that opportunity to get some of these head coaching jobs across the league. Unfortunately, that's not the case. The current only active black head coach in the NFL right now is Mike Tomlin with the Pittsburgh Steelers, the team that originated the Rooney Rule, giving black coaches the opportunity to, get head coaching interviews across the league. And it's kind of disappointing how he's the only one, and the team that originated the rule is the guy that has the black coach right now. I think not even just diversity from just black coaches. I mean, you got Spanish, Chinese. You don't really see a lot of diversity within head coaching jobs across the NFL. I mean, only Spanish guy I've seen maybe that we know historically maybe is Tom Flores with the Raiders back in the day. Ron Rivera right now with the Washington football team. But other than that, you don't see a lot of diversity within these head coaching jobs. I think that's something that it's going to raise a lot of eyebrows because we've seen some coaches, defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators, wide receiver coaches all across the board on both sides of the football. Have been black, been different type of skin colors, and just haven't really got that opportunity. So, it's going to raise a lot of eyebrows. Brian Flores like you said, took a big risk, putting his name out there. He stated he made a statement saying he probably put his NFL coaching career at risk, and probably for sure. I mean, it maybe along the road, an owner comes around and gives him an opportunity and respects the steps that he made to speak out against this, and feels like he might want to choose him to lead his football franchise down the road. We'll see what comes to this. So the Broncos, Giants, and the Dolphins and the NFL have come out, made a statement saying that they're gonna. Well, the Broncos said like the interview that Brian Flores was occurring to, saying that they were an hour late. I know it was an hour late to his interview, and it took so long for them to come and interview him. They said that was completely false. The Giants pretty much said we just went with the guy that we wanted, and Brian Daboll. And the NFL says they're going to look into it. Everything. The simple cover your ass statements that, of course, these teams are going to say. They're not going to come out and if what is true, they're not going to say, yeah, it's true. We did this because of so and so. They made their statements. Then you got the Bill Belichick factor, where Bill
Yeah,
texts Brian
I will.
Flores and thought it was Dayball.
Yeah, I will. I will say that had to have been a typo. There's no way like if people tried to pick something out of it, like it's ridiculous. Like that was just a simple worst case of bad texting. I mean, Brian Daboll, Brian Flores, you both got the same first name. It just so happened Bill Belichick probably meant to send that to Daboll, but instead he sent it to Flores, and that's just that is just a bad look. That's just one of those tours. Like, man, where do I go wrong on that one? That's just that's just like one of those, like you're texting one of your buddies like, oh, you know what, congratulations on getting this job, or even like a driver's like, oh, congratulations, like we want to get you. It's like, oh, sorry, we meant the other one. It's just like if there were two CJs and they send it to you, the one CJ, but then it's like, oh, I'm sorry, we meant the other CJ, not you. We meant the other one. That's just one of those where it's like, oh, that hurts. But
Yeah, exactly. And then again, that was 3 days before he was even interviewed for the Giants head coaching position.
well, that was 3 days.
Yeah, 3 days before Belichick had texted him and told him, like, congrats, really. And that's why in the text message he said, did you hear something that I didn't hear? Because he didn't even get an interview yet for the job.
Oh, I had no idea. I thought that was like the same day. Like if it's like 3 days beforehand, that's like that's
Right.
a yikes.
Right, Right, exactly, and that's why it's it's really stirring the pot right now in terms of a lot of discussions going on. We've seen players come out and tweet, pretty much saying that it's a big issue, it's a problem that's been going on for a while. And again, I mean, you can't help but just look at the NFL, look at the landscape. You know, you look at the head coaches. There isn't any diversity. I mean, you got Mike Tomlin.
Mm-hmm.
I know Brian Flores just had a job, obviously last year. Robert Salah with the Jets, Ron Rivera. I mean, it's not as diverse
And
as you would expect.
also what's crazy is like some coaches like who have gotten a job and are white don't even deserve one. Like how the hell did Cliff Kingsbury get a job for Arizona even though he was below 500 at Texas Tech? How do you do that? And even just like even Steve Wilkes, like he was one of the other black coaches for Arizona. 1 year he's 3-13. What do you expect Steve Wilkes to do with a Josh Rosen who's a terrible quarterback and a disaster roster? What more are you supposed to ask from him? And then you replace him with a guy who went below 500 in college football. I mean, come on, that's terrible. And then on top of that, you look at Dan Campbell, and yeah, he's doing something in Detroit, but Steve Wilkes got fired for 3 wins. Dan Campbell's got 2. Like it's one of those, like, there's a standard that's something unreal, and they call Detroit the lovable losers, where it's like, well, I mean, if Steve Wilkes were there, people would be axing for his job, wanting him out, but because it's Dan Campbell and he's biting kneecaps, we got King Ryan, he's got good energy, and then the cream of the crop, CJ, which is one of the most disastrous head coaching hires of all time, was Urban freaking Meyer. How are you going to bring a guy in Urban Meyer who hasn't even coached a lick of the NFL? If you want to go diversity, you could have went Jim Caldwell, who's been a winner. He was a winner in Indianapolis, took him to a Super Bowl. He took Detroit to the playoffs 2 times in 4 years. You could have gone that route. You could have gone the Eric Bieniemy route, where he's been a coordinator for Kansas City, back-to-back Super Bowls, winning 1. You could have easily gone so many other routes, so many options. And you decide to go with a guy in Urban Meyer who's had a great track record in college. He's a winning college coach. But everywhere he goes, there's disaster. There's a disaster in Utah, disaster in Florida, disaster in Ohio State, just off the field issues. And what does he bring to the NFL? He brings the off the field issues. What is the first move that he makes, CJ? He brings in Tim fucking Tebow as a 3rd string tight end. And the first block he makes is literally like this. Just dive to the side. The whiff of a block, one of the worst moves I've ever seen.
Right.
And then he pulls one of the most fireable moves of all time. How are you going to be a head coach in the NFL and not fly home with your team? Like, if you don't do that, he should have been instantly fired on the spot in week 4. And somehow, some way, he lasted 13 weeks. That in itself was a disaster. And you think about it, it's like I think there absolutely should be diversity. Like there has to be, because some of these coaches that have been hired as of late, boy, you could have threw in Jim Caldwell in Arizona, you could have had the same success. You could have threw in, hell, you could even throw in Brian Flores in Detroit, and they probably would have had more than 2 wins. Like, if you put Brian Flores with this same Detroit roster, I could guarantee you that they have double or even triple the wins. If Flores could win 6 games in Miami his first year, he could have won at least 5 to 6 games with his Detroit roster. And it's just one of those to where, like, so something that has to change. I mean, I know they're trying to incorporate, like, you could get extra picks if you do something, but, something's got to change, because some of these coaches as of lately that have gotten head jobs are unacceptable. And one thing is for certain, since Flores has named the teams, Denver and the Giants, Nathan Hackett and Brian Daboll, you got targets on your back. You better perform. You better perform in this next year and a half, because if you fail to produce, if you miss the playoffs, Flores' case is right there. It's like, look, they just hire him because he's white. And I mean, just look at that. I could do that. I could do that. Like, Flores is going to be looking back, if he's not hired within a year. He's going to look really hard at the Giants and the Broncos. If they both miss the playoffs and don't improve, people are going to be looking at Flores like, hey, maybe if Flores was there, they could have been winning. But they decided to go with Daboll and Hackett because they've had quarterbacks of Josh Allen or Aaron Rodgers who have been winning quarterbacks. So we'll see what happens, but something definitely has to change.
Yeah, and then also I didn't even get into the factor of him with the Dolphins, where Stephen Ross allegedly, this is according to Flores, offered him 100K to lose games. Each game, he would give him 100K. Was trying to set up Flores with a meeting with a prominent quarterback, which is obviously tampering rules would have been violated there. and
I
and
mean,
Flores refused. So it's a lot of factors into this lawsuit that's going on. But I think the core thing really is just about it's just so many, like I said, lack of opportunities, man. I mean, it's just right there in front of you. I mean, it's just, especially when the NFL is 70% black from a player standpoint. I know we've seen some coordinators. We saw D'Amico Ryans. We saw Hightower with the 49ers. We see Raheem Morris, defensive coordinator for the Rams. He's going to be in the Super Bowl this year. So hopefully, some of those, Brian Leftwich, I thought him with the Jaguars was a lock. I thought he was going to go there. I thought that was a guaranteed lock.
yeah, but I mean,
Right now, it's not
Leftwich.
working out that way.
Yeah, the reason why it's up in the air is because of one man, and his name is Trent Baalke, the GM of the Jaguars. Byron Leftwich said, "I want." It's the Cardinals. It's the Cardinals. I think players operator. I forget his first name, but his last name is Wilson. He wants Wilson in for Jacksonville, which my personal opinion makes sense. I mean, that bum GM for the Jaguars. What has he done in Jacksonville? He's done nothing.
He's done nothing, and even when he was in San Francisco, he had some solid years.
He
him
drove.
and Jim Harbaugh.
He drove. I mean, and even after Harbaugh left, he drove the Niners to the ground. Right. I mean, what the Niners are right now are John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. Trent Baalke is irrelevant. Trent Baalke helped further drive down the Jaguars, who were already on a downward spiral after 2017. But once he comes in, he further drives them into the ground. And if I'm Jacksonville, I would have listened to Byron Leftwich. I would be like, all right, you know what? This bum Baalke hasn't done shit for us. We'll move on. We'll bring in Wilson. We'll give him an opportunity. We'll bring in Byron Leftwich. Let's change the culture. But it's also, CJ, with the greed of the owners. Shad Khan and Stephen Ross, they're greedy bastards. Like to be quite frank, they're going to keep a pace, and they're going to be the same players. And that's why. And that's also what separates bad franchises from good franchises. The good franchises, like the Patriots, like the Green Bay Packers, they know when to make right decisions. And even if they have a down year or so, they bounce back. Green Bay missed the playoffs 2 consecutive years. What has happened since? We've made the playoffs 3 straight years and made it to the NFC Championship game 2 times in 3 years. What do the Patriots do after 1 down year without Brady? Oh, they make the playoffs the following year because they are a good franchise. Bad franchises like the Dolphins and the Jags, when there's a little bit of hope of prosperity, example, 2016 Dolphins, 2017 Jaguars, the minute they have a sense of prosperity, bam, straight to the ground because they're a bad run franchise. And it's disappointing because you think in both of those instances, they had great teams. Jacksonville in 2017 was a damn good team. They had the pieces. They were literally a quarter away from the Super Bowl. And now they are eons from it because of bad decisions by the front office, whether it's Tom Coughlin or Trent Baalke. And then, with Stephen Ross, Stephen Ross has been there for over 20 years. And since Dan Marino left, the Dolphins have been irrelevant. Besides 2 years. Besides 2008 and 2016, the 2 years that they made the playoffs, the Miami Dolphins have been irrelevant since Dan Marino's left. You can classify them as a poverty franchise. They have been poverty the last 2 decades besides 2008 and 2016. And the last thing I say, before we move on from the Brian Flores, all these are just allegations. If it is in fact true, if it is true that Stephen Ross has done all this stuff, if I'm Roger Goodell, you got to force him to sell the team. If all this stuff is true that Stephen Ross did, he needs to sell the team as soon as possible. Now, if this is false, boy, is this going to be a bad look for Flores if it's false. But if it's all true, and then the NFL investigates and they find out that it is true, if you're Roger Goodell, you got to put your foot down and tell Ross, look, man, you got to sell the team. We can't have that here. You can't have an owner basically walk into the coach and say, hey, I'll pay you an extra $100,000 if we lose. Like you can't have that. That's unacceptable. Like that's taken tanking to a whole nother level. Like if they let Stephen Ross get away with this, and this is true, then a lot of teams are looking at it like, hey, we could tank. If we only got to fork out $100,000, we're rich billionaire owners. We could afford $100K. Hey, let's just dump that out. Like that's gonna be a bad trend if they don't get it. If it is true what Stephen Ross did, he has to sell the team. It's the same thing with the Dan Snyder situation. If all the allegations are true with Dan Snyder, he should force the team as well. Now, I did hear there was a rumor, it's not officially true, but there's a leak that the Washington's new team name could be the Commanders. I'm not sure if you heard about it, but there was a leak that came out that Washington's new name could be the Washington Commanders.
Okay, yeah, I haven't heard that. But yeah, like you said, I mean, just to really close this topic, it's going to come down to the owners. The owners going to have to step out of their comfort zone. And I don't even want to call it, I guess you could call it taking chances, but it's just like, if a guy is qualified and he has all the credentials, he's a good guy, you feel like he can lead your team, lead your NFL franchise, especially for some of these teams that haven't been good. Like you said, like the Jaguars, like the Dolphins, like the Lions. Why not? Like, what else do you have? What do you have to lose? And giving these guys an opportunity, giving these guys a shot to see if they can run a franchise, it could go well. I mean, like I said, the league is 70% black. Maybe the players could relate to these, a coach that looks like them a little bit more, and then maybe galvanize these guys to play better, play harder, which could lead to success, which could lead to winning. That's also a part of football as well. Not just the money and all the other factors that play a part. So we're gonna see what happens. Right now, it's really hearsay from both sides, and as more information comes out, more evidence comes out, we'll see how this thing goes down. But I want to transition to the Las Vegas Raiders hiring Dave Ziegler, hiring Josh McDaniels. Just had their introductory press conference yesterday. I saw a little bit of that. What's your thoughts on the hire from the Raiders, bringing in Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler as a GM? And how do you see that going down with Derek Carr in the future of the Raiders, especially in a very tough division?
I will say with the hiring of Ziegler and McDaniels, it's going to be interesting with Ziegler. I mean, I think whenever you hire a GM, you kind of never know. I mean, for example, when John Lynch was hired as the GM for the 49ers, it was kind of up in the air. Like, we didn't know what this guy was capable of. Obviously, we now know John Lynch is a great GM and can pull trades. But, with him, it's one of those like, okay, with where you're at beforehand, we'll see. Because what was he, the ipso facto GM of the Patriots? Dave.
Over the last few years, he had a lot of say on personnel scouting, especially when once Nick Caserio went to Houston. Yeah, he got a lot of that power.
He had a lot of say, and and the free agency period, even with the Pats this year, there are a lot of whiffs compared to hits. The only main hit he had was Judon. The others, Henry, mid. Jonnu Smith was a miss. Aguilar was. And then, Kendrick Bourne was like it's been meh. Like it's kind of like it's just like mid. Hopefully he turns things around for the Raiders for the front office side, because boy, they have whiffed on some draft picks. Whether it's reaching for Alex Leatherwood, reaching for Clelin Ferrell, or just drafting players who make mistakes like Damian Arnett or Henry Ruggs. I mean, they've whiffed a lot on the draft. So I mean, as long as he could go in there and make good decisions. Draft-wise, I think they'll be fine there. For Josh McDaniels, I thought it was an interesting hire. If I were the Raiders, I would have thought they either brought back Bisaccia because he brought him to the playoffs, or go after a guy like Brian Flores because he was available. I was shocked that I saw McDaniels hired, and for McDaniels, it's kind of a prove it. His last stint in Denver was a disaster, but he was young. He was young at the time. It was his first stint as a head coach. a lot of people, the first time at the craft, they make some mistakes. That's going to be, especially like if Dan Quinn, ever gets a head coaching job again, he's going to learn from his first in Atlanta. Like, you know what? There are some things I did well here. The things I didn't do so well, I won't do those. Josh McDaniels was probably going to go into the mindset of, my stint in Denver, granted it was bad. I'm gonna learn from the stuff I did in the past. The mistakes I made in the past, I'm gonna try not to make those same mistakes again. And whenever I did good, I'm gonna try to incorporate that. Now, the one thing that's kind of interesting is you saw some of the players kind of, voice kind of their disappoint. They kind of were like, man, like I really thought that we were going to bring in Bisaccia. Like I thought Bisaccia was going to come back, to the Raiders as a head coach. And, obviously the players are going to be like, okay, McDaniels, but it's one of those to where those two hires that the Raiders made, they have to be, the expectation now for the Raiders is you got to be a playoff team, and that's the expectation with any team, For Green Bay, when you have Rodgers, the expectation is a Super Bowl. For the Patriots, whenever you have Bill Belichick, Mac Jones, your expectation is to make the playoffs. You got expectations. For the Raiders, after making the playoffs this year at 10 wins, now the expectation is, okay, repeat that. Do it again. That's going to be the expectation. And, and also the same thing like with Derek Carr, it'll be very interesting because one thing is for certain, a lot of teams are going to want Derek Carr, whether that's Tampa Bay, if they want to get Derek Carr's name in the hat, now that Brady is retired, which we will discuss about that. I'm telling you right now, if Tampa Bay could find a way to get Derek Carr, Tampa's going to be the best team in the NFC South. They're going to easily win that division because the NFC South is wide open. I mean, to be quite frank, the only teams that are pretty much competing in the NFC South are maybe Carolina. Well, any team. Any team is competing there. Any team is competing there in the NFC South. And then
also, you could say the Falcons, they have the best quarterback right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. By default, technically speaking, Matt Ryan's the best quarterback in the NFC South. And then also, don't sleep on Pittsburgh. Like if Pittsburgh wants to get a quarterback, Derek Carr is going to be right there. Derek Carr's name is going to be all over the market, this offseason. And he's going to really be a big name because I'm telling you, if Derek Carr goes to Tampa Bay or Pittsburgh, both those teams are going to be playoff contenders. If Derek Carr steps foot in Pittsburgh, they're making the playoffs. So especially when you got Tomlin in there who hasn't had a below 500 record ever in his coaching staff, you bring in a proven guy like Carr, yeah, you're going to get at least 9-10 wins. Same thing even with Tampa Bay. Depending on their free agency situation and their coaching staff situation, you bring in Derek Carr, you at least winning 8 to 10 games. Bare minimum, and you're probably winning the division. Now, will Derek Carr set you over the hump and be Super Bowl contenders? For Tampa, that depends because the NFC is wide open because of how weak the quarterbacks are. In the AFC, if he goes to Pittsburgh, no, he won't have a shot because he'll probably get bounced in the first round of the wild card because the AFC is loaded with quarterback talent. But just overall for the Raiders, I think we'll see. It's hard to judge a coaching staff. Like year one. Like year one, it's kind of hard to judge because it's their first year like in the system. I think you could really judge a coaching hire when they get into year 2, year 3. That's when you could find out if you made a mistake or not. Like, for example, when the Giants hired Joe Judge, first year he's there, start off slow, finish strong. Like, all right, this guy is good. But then after year 2, you realize, oh my God, this guy is a disaster and he has no idea what he's doing. So you move on from him. Now, on the flip side of things, you got recently Green Bay hiring Matt LaFleur. When Green Bay first hired Matt LaFleur, I'm like, yo, who is this guy? He was a 22nd ranked offense with Tennessee, and they had freaking Derrick see It's like, all right, let's see what the kid can do. First year, he wins 13 games. Now we had Aaron Rodgers healthy, but we made it to the championship game. I was like, all right, first year was a success. He did good. Can you follow that up in year 2? And he sure followed that up in year 2. The same win record, same championship game, and the same loss. But now it's like, okay, you know what? We got our guy. And then, just recently this last year, he's 39-10 and in 3 years as head coach. And it's safe to say, you know what? we got our guy. He's proven that, he's a good head coach. Now he's benefited from a good quarterback, but Mike McCarthy had that same quarterback and he was a bum. I mean, he terribly managed the clock. Matt LaFleur in 3 years, he's got 39 wins. I didn't see Mike McCarthy his first 3 years get 39 wins. I didn't see that. And he had Favre, and he basically had Favre, his last 3 years. So it's like, it's all dependent upon, year 2, year 3. That's when you could really find out whether you got the right head coach in or not. So for McDaniels and crew, first year, you got to win at least 9 to 10 wins, bare minimum. If Rick Bisaccia, an interim special teams coordinator, can lead the Raiders to 10 wins, if you're Josh McDaniels, you got to win at least 9 to 10. Because if you don't, then you're going to have a target on your back going into year 2. And if you don't make any subtle improvements, bam, you're going to get axed and get canned, because I'm telling you, for the coaching market, it could be wide open, in the next year or two, depending on who's hired and who's fired. So if you're McDaniels, you better learn from your mistakes in Denver, because if you haven't, then it's going to be another bad coach from the Belichick tree, which is very unique. Like, you would think, like, Bill Belichick, one of the greatest head coaches of all time, you would think, like, people who follow his tree, would have success, but for the most part, it really hasn't. Like, the only coaches who have had somewhat success are Bill O'Brien. He was a 500 coach in Houston. And then Flores in his short stint in Miami. Other than that, that's been about it. Like, there hasn't really been a lot of successful coordinators under the Bill Belichick tree, unlike guys like Andy Reid or Sean McVay's coaching tree.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is because Belichick has a lot of power, has a lot of control. And then also, I feel like some of these guys, look at Matt Patricia, Josh McDaniels, his first time in Denver. They tried Joe Judge. They tried too hard to be like Belichick instead of being themselves. And they feel like, oh, if this is how Belichick did it when I was in New England. If I do it this way with my team, then it's going to translate to wins. And it doesn't work like that. You got to find your own identity as a coach. Players are not going to respect you if you try to be like someone else. Players can see right through that. You got to have your own identity. You got to have your own personality. And I feel like that's why we haven't seen a lot of successful head coaches under the Bill Belichick tree. I'm a fan of the hire. I mean, I'm happy for Josh. He got another opportunity. The time in Denver didn't work out. A lot of stories. Wasn't able to get a quarterback. Had Kyle Orton.
He had Tebow.
Yeah, Tebow, Kyle Orton for a little bit. And there was some other situations that went down. But like you alluded to, he was a young coach, came back to New England, learned, won a couple of Super Bowls in the process. And now he gets to go to Vegas with a really good quarterback. I don't think he goes to Vegas if Carr's not in their future plans. So I see Carr staying there for the next 3 to 5 years. Dave Ziegler didn't have a great free agency, but how much is that is Bill? How much is that is Dave? Maybe Dave said, let's not get this guy, and Bill said, let's pull the trigger. You will never know those conversations. Now he has the opportunity to do his own thing. We'll find out now in the draft how well he's going to be. Mike Mayock, I think it was just time. Like, I understand the same thing with Bisaccia. I mean, I just feel like Mark Davis just wanted to clear all of the John Gruden people, get them out of there, start fresh, start with a clean slate. So I understand why they didn't want to go with Bisaccia as being their head coach next year and beyond. Start fresh. You bring a combo in that came from New England. Josh McDaniels has done a great job as a play caller. I mean, they were the number 6 in offense last year with the rookie quarterback. The run game was really good. Wide receiver position, obviously not the best. So you get a guy like Darren Waller. Brian Edwards has a solid year. Hunter Renfrow is a really good wide receiver in the slot. Josh Jacobs, really good running back. They got to clean up that offensive line. So I'm looking to see what they do there to protect Carr. Defense was pretty solid as well. You got Max Crosby, Pro Bowler. You also got Casey Hayward in the secondary. So it's a good team, but it's going to be a competitive division. Like you said, the Broncos just got Nathaniel Hackett, a guy that they feel like could maybe lure Rodgers to Denver and make them competitive in the AFC West. I mean, we know about Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes Patrick Mahomes just in the AFC Conference Championship game. on Sunday. So that division is going to be extremely tough. But Josh McDaniels confident, feels like he has a quarterback that can win some games. That game was really close against the Bengals in that wild card round. They were right there. Derek Carr threw a pick in the red zone, could have tied it up. Who knows what happens after that? So they feel like they're right there. They feel like they just need to work on some pieces. Excited for Josh, see what he could do. And then for the New England standpoint, I'm hearing a lot of names here. And Bill O'Brien might come back. He might leave Alabama and be the offensive coordinator in New England. We know about the dual tight end situation that he had with Gronk and Hernandez when he was the play caller there. Completely, to me, you could run that set, but the talent is just so much different. Henry's good, but he's not Gronk. And Jonnu Smith, I mean, listen, I know Hernandez. Hernandez, he did what he did, but when on the football field, he's very talented, and Jonnu Smith is not on that level. Maybe that's a McDaniels thing, not calling plays to get him open, get him some touches so he can get into a rhythm. I think a lot had to do with that. Could have definitely used him down the stretch in certain situations, especially knowing that the wide receiver position isn't the best in New England. Could have used his speed and athleticism, get him on the field a little bit more. Maybe bringing a guy like Bill O'Brien, he could maybe use some of the things that Jonnu Smith does well, and it could help the Patriots on the field. But yeah, you got to find an OC for Mac. This will be 2 OCs in 2 years. So hopefully, Bill O'Brien could come in there, or whoever comes in there, stay for a couple years so he can learn the offense, get comfortable. It's a big year 2 for him. Got to the playoffs, got bounced out early, got waxed. So now you got to come in with a lot to prove, and hopefully they get the right play caller in there that he has a really good relationship with. Hopefully Bill and those guys in the front office make the right move when it comes to that. So in closing, in regards to McDaniels, good luck. Dave Ziegler, good luck. Like I said, that division is stacked. It's loaded. They've still managed to get 10 wins, and I feel like that's because they have a really good quarterback. And Derek Carr, he's going to have to improve and get better as well. And that team is going to have to play well. I mean, we've seen teams all the time go to the playoffs one year and then get bounced out and never go to the playoffs again in the next 3-4 years. So we'll see how consistent they stay, and that's really going to come down to those 2 guys that Mark Davis just hired yesterday. And then before we get to the games, also want to talk about the big news. Tom Brady officially retiring. I know Adam Schefter, Jeff Darlington, they kind of spoiled it for Tom and announced his retirement a couple days early. Probably wanted to do it on his terms, but today he officially announced his retirement. Had like a 7-page post on IG and all his social media platforms, thanking all the coaches, his family, the Bucs organization. And yeah, it's calling it quits. 22 seasons, had a hell of a ride. What's your thoughts on the retirement? And then I'll give my thoughts on Tom and his legacy.
Man, what did I think on Brady retiring? I mean, I think it's crazy. I mean, I grew up pretty much, when I first got into football. I mean, watching Brady was like it. Like that was the key right there. That was the main reason to watch. Like that was the go-to. That is like the GOAT. That
right.
People call him. Like that's the GOAT right there. That's playing. And just seeing him retire. It was very interesting. Obviously it was kind of expected. When you saw what went down, you kind of looked at it as like, okay, like with this being leaked, like, this probably is going to be it. Like this is probably going to be like the key piece right here. This is going to be it. Like he's going to retire. And, after that Bucks Rams game, I kind of had a feeling like, oh, you know what, there's no way he goes out like that. But I think when he was down 27-3, when he came back to tie that game at 27-27, I think after that game, he kind of looked at it. He's like, you know what? I came back again. I was down 24. I came back. I tied that game. I can go out at peace. I don't care what happens. If we win and win the championship game, great. But, if we lose, so be it. And, one thing is for certain, I know there's a lot of people that say like whenever guys like, Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant retire, people are like, there's never going to be another one. and eventually, like there is, like like people said there wasn't gonna be another MJ. Well, Kobe Bryant had a fantastic career, won 5 rings. LeBron James still playing year 19. He's got 4 rings. What Brady has done over a 22-year time span in the NFL, I think that's where we could say, I don't think we're truly going to see another guy like Brady. I mean, what he was able to do, I mean, this man literally had, there's a stat where he literally had like 3 Hall of Fame careers. Where when he first started all the way to 2006, he won 3 Super Bowls. He had the one drought, from his first year to 2007, he won 3 rings and got to 4 Super Bowls. Then what's crazy is he had a 10-year drought, accumulated all these stats, gets a Super Bowl. And then what he's able to do over almost close to 40, win about 2 to 3 more rings after that. And on top of that, what I love is how he went out. The man threw for 5,300 yards at age 44 and had close to 40 touchdowns. And that's his final season. Like that's the way how to go. And on top of that, he won without Belichick. The whole debate was Brady or Belichick. Both won 6 rings. And what does Brady do his first year in Tampa in a COVID-like season? He goes and wins the whole damn Super Bowl. He does what he does best, which is win. And what's crazy to me is in his 22-year career, CJ, the man went to Super Bowl 10 times. Almost 50% of his career was a Super Bowl.
Incredible.
I mean, it's one thing, with baseball, there really isn't a salary cap. From the NFL, there's a salary cap. Teams don't make it to the Super Bowl, sometimes in their career. Sometimes it takes 20 to 30 years. Look at the Cincinnati Bengals. They hadn't been to a Super Bowl since 1988. And
it's hard to win, man.
Yeah. And Brady has been to 10 in the last 22 years. And then even this decade from 2000, even you look at from the 2010 decade to 2019, he went to a Super Bowl in 2011, 2014, 2016, 2017, 2018. He literally went to 5 Super Bowls in half a decade, and won 3 of them. And even to start this 2020 decade, we're year 2 in, and Brady has already gone to 1. It's crazy to me, and it's crazy seeing all these great quarterbacks to play that we all watched growing up. We grew up with the Roethlisbergers, the Peyton and Eli Manning, the Phillip Rivers, the Bradys. Now they're all retired. And even Drew Brees, too. Yeah. Drew Brees, Favre, like all those star players are now retired. And what's crazy is with Brady retiring in the NFC, you look at the only prominent quarterbacks left in the NFC, CJ, are Matt Ryan on his last legs, Matthew Stafford, Kyler Murray, and Aaron Rodgers if he stays with the Green Bay Packers. That's only 4.
Yep.
That's only 4. And you also can't discount, Russell Wilson as well in Seattle. Yeah, of course. If he does stay in Seattle. So there's 5. So there's 5 in the NFC. But you talk about the bloodbath in the AFC. In the AFC North alone, you got Lamar Jackson versus Joe Burrow. Just in the AFC just in the AFC North alone. And then throughout the rest of the AFC, you got Josh Allen, who's a competitor. You then got Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert as well. And then whenever Deshaun Watson, settles his cases, Deshaun Watson is up there, one of the top QBs as well. Like you got 5 to 6 quarterbacks, as well. Like it's going like the AFC is going to be a bloodbath, for young star talented quarterbacks. Now, and one thing I will say, I can't believe I forgot to name this other NFC quarterback. There's also a Dak Prescott, who some people like Connie would say whack Prescott, but you got to include Dak up there for one.
You got to put Dak in there too
for one of the top NFC quarterbacks. But And one thing I will say, I know this is like off topic and stuff, but I'm gonna look at Rodgers and say, do you really want to go in that bloodbath of the AFC? Do you really want to go up against Mahomes and Herbert twice a year? Do you really want to go up against Josh Allen or Joe Burr, Joe Shiesty, or Lamar Jackson at age 38? Yeah, or would you rather verse Stafford, Murray, Prescott, and Ryan? I'd rather have those odds instead. So if you want to run it back, go ahead. But the power is in your court. But I might think give it one more shot. The boogeyman will no longer haunt you. The Michael Myers, Tom Brady, he's not going to hurt you anymore.
I feel like the 49ers are more of a boogeyman than Brady.
Well, I mean, I will say the Niners are the Niners, but they will have Trey Lance. I mean, to be quite frank, we don't even know what Trey Lance is capable of. I know there's a bunch of hype on Trey Lance, but what if CJ Trey Lance flops? Because I'll tell you right now, if he flops and you move on from Jimmy G, oh man, it's gonna be quite a scene in San Francisco if Trey Lance isn't as he is and Jimmy G goes and leaves. Like it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But overall for Brady's career, guaranteed first ballot Hall of Famer without a question. I mean, he's what we call a 100%er for the Hall of Fame. When Peyton was eligible for the Hall of Fame, he was a 100%er. When Brady is eligible for the Hall of Fame, he'll be a 100%er. You're gonna see his number retired at Gillette Stadium. You're gonna see the number 12 retired. Now, I personally think the Patriots. I don't know if the Patriots have like a Ring of Honor or something, but I know for sure they should retire some other numbers. I thought for sure guys like Troy Brown or Bruschi or Willie McGinnis would have gotten their numbers retired, but I've seen Amendola wear the 80. I've seen Hightower wear the 54. But I don't think anybody's wearing the number 12 in New England ever again.
Nah, not at all.
That number 12 is going to be up there. Going to be up there in Gillette Stadium. Tampa's probably going to retire his number as well, just because in his 2-year stint there, he brought the most success Tampa has ever had since the early 2000s.
Yep.
Brought him a Super Bowl, and then brought him another divisional crown for the first time since 2007. And then almost came back from down 24. Could you imagine, CJ, if Brady would have came back down 27-3? The Rams would have been the new meme, and the Falcons meme would have literally died. Now,
I don't know. Yeah, Super Bowl divisional round.
You know what? How this? It wouldn't have died. It would have lowered. It would have lowered.
They would have had a brother next to them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It would have had a brother like they would have been the meme where it's like first time, yeah. But that did not happen, and it's gonna be very interesting to see a league without Brady. Because it always seems like year in year out, Brady was gonna be the ultimate competitor, and I feel like he set the standard. He set the standard for how the quarterback is supposed to play. And, he also set the standard for he was a winner, not only because he had great teams around him. He took pay cuts to help improve the teams. You would think big name quarterbacks like a Rodgers or a Mahomes would learn from a guy in Brady who's won rings, taking less money. But I personally think like egos get in their ways and they think, oh, I got to get paid this money. What if I get hurt in the NFL? You're still going to get $5 or $6 million. I'm sure you could live comfortably off $5 to $6 million. I'm pretty sure, Brady only got paid $25 million. I'm sure you could live comfortably off $20 to $25 million. And then you have this excess money to help build your defense and help build the rest of your surrounding weapons. I think you can handle that. That's what Brady was able to do. And I think it's, I don't think we're ever going to see it again. Like, I mean, I know the people are like, oh, Mahomes is going to be the next one. Yeah, no. Talk to me when he at least gets 3 to 4 rings. You can't claim a guy as the next one when he only has one. You just can't. And And one thing I will say that's crazy about Brady is I used to be a big Rodgers guy. Like, Rodgers with Brady, Rodgers, yeah, he's up there in name. I know like the ring difference, but I think after these last couple of years, I'm just like, yeah, hands down, it's Brady. Like Rodgers ain't even sniffing him. Like, I mean, they're just nothing. Like it's one of those like there's like a beta and an alpha. Like Rodgers is the beta and Brady is the alpha. Like there's no comparison. There was a comparison at a point in time, but I think after these last 2 years,
Never.
that's just
Never
up there. Yeah, I mean, I thought there was. I thought there was because that was my homerism showing. Like I thought there was. I was like, talent wise, Rodgers is there. Brady's got the rings. But out of these last couple of years, I'm just like, yeah, it's Brady all around. Brady gets it done in the playoffs when it matters most. He has the rings. Rodgers shits the bed like Lamar did against the Browns. There's different levels. There are different levels. Rodgers is good, but he won't be great. Guys like Manning, Brady, Montana, those guys are great. Rodgers is just good. He's just there. Like if you look at all-time great tier 1 QBs, Rodgers is like tier 2 or 3.
I wouldn't go that far. He's tier 1. He's just not above.
CJ, the man's only got one ring.
Well, I mean,
he's got only one ring and has failed in the playoffs year in and year out. How are you gonna claim him as tier 1?
Well, tier 1 to me is top 5. So
yeah, and he's not top 5. He's top 10, but he's not 5. He's not. You can't put Rodgers with one ring at 5. If he had 2 or 3, you could put him at top 5. But with 1, you just can't. You just can't put him up there in the top 5. It's the same thing with Breeze. Like Breeze is borderline 5, but that's because he's got 1. You just can't. It's hard. It's hard to put. It's hard to put someone in a top 5 tier quarterbacks when they only have 1 ring. It's very hard, especially when guys like a Montana or a Bradshaw or a Brady have at least 4+ rings, and Manning's got 2 rings, even though his last ring was pretty much carried by Von Miller in the defense.
Right, context. Yeah, that's you got to use context when you talk about this.
It is one of those like it's hard to put him in, and even with like Rodgers, like you expect him more. And what's crazy is with Brady. I mean, I know there's a comparison like LeBron. Like LeBron is 4-6 in his championship appearances. My man Brady is 7-3. Batting 700, like a 70%.
Exactly.
That's a good percentage. Like there's levels. Like yeah, LeBron's been to 10 finals, but he's only won 4 of them. Man's 40%. Brady's been to 10 as well, and he's batting 70%. He's won 7 out of 10. And what's also unique is with Brady, he didn't really have any big injuries. His only one big injury he had was an ACL in 2008, and that was about it.
That's it.
He is the most like gifted non-injury quarterback like I've ever seen. Like Rodgers' prime was great, but once he got those 2 collarbone injuries, oh man, it hurt. Like he doesn't have the same zing as he did in years past. Now, granted, he still has zing, but I mean, there are certain plays Rodgers would make it his prime. I would just see play action, instant throw, deep to Nelson, in stride, easy money, 50-yard touchdown, smooth like butter. And when the collarbone injuries hit him, it was different. But with Brady, he pretty much played a clean career. And what's also good is he retires, with the clean career. Like he isn't broken and battered down like Peyton Manning was, or Roethlisberger was, or Phillip Rivers was. Like clearly you knew their arm was dead. Clearly you knew they were out of gas. With Brady, he could suit up in September and he's ready to go. Plain and simple. I saw him zip a pass, CJ. You probably saw this against the Rams. He was down at about his own 35 or his own 40, and he zipped a perfect pass to Mike Evans, who's all the way down at around the Rams 25-20 at age 44. He could easily walk in if he wanted to and say, I'm going to back one more. But I think I think he's going to stay retired. I don't think this is going to be a Favre saga. With the saga of Favre, he was retiring. Oh, then he came back out of retirement. Oh, then he's retiring again. Oh, he's going to come back out. But it's one of those where we'll see what happens. Brady had a phenomenal career. We'll never see anything like it again. We'll never see a quarterback go to 10 Super Bowls and win 7. That's just impossible. And, I know the so-called next team is the Chiefs, but, I mean, yeah, you're going to 4 straight AFC Championship games, but you only got 1 Super Bowl out of it. Brady went to freaking like 8 straight AFC Championship games, and he got about 3 Super Bowls out of it, 3 to 4. So talk to me when you get a dynasty. That's what I have to say about that. Because Brady's got 2 dynasties.
Yeah, when I think that's a great tribute, man. When I talk about Brady, I think about ultimate teammate.
Yeah, I mean, look at you. You're spoiled with success. I mean, you saw your whole life.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I went to my first Patriot game back in 2002. Patriots, Jets, and then the last time I saw him play was 2017 at MetLife. Came back, they were down 14. He came back, led them to a win. So he's the reason why I'm a Patriot fan. I've been watching him my whole career. Not his whole career, not my career.
Yeah, I was about to say, man, playmaker, you got a career now. That's what we like to see.
Nah, but he's amazing, man. 199th pick in the 6th round, was the 4th string quarterback his rookie season, and then as soon as Bledsoe went down, he never gave the job up. He capitalized on his opportunity, and the rest is history, man. I mean,
also shout out Tuck Rule.
Tuck Rule, yeah, it was some luck, of course, some luck along the way. It's football. It's a part of the game.
I know. It was a rule at the time, but shout out Tuck Rule.
For sure. I mean, there's a lot in his career. I mean, he's been in so many games. We got Dustin saying you're never going to see another Brady. No, you're never going to see another Brady.
And what's also crazy is the man's first in everything. First in touchdowns, first in wins, first in yards.
Yeah, like you said, that speaks to the longevity, how long he's played, and your biggest regret is never seeing him in person. Ah, man, damn. It's
I was gonna say I never saw him in person either. I only saw him on TV. But I've seen a lot of his winning.
Yeah, he's a surgeon, man. Again, you look at all the teams he's played with. His first few years in his career, wasn't really superstar. He was a guy that was a part of the team. He was an ultimate teammate, and the defense was excellent back then. But he was a winner. He knew how to win games. He was patient. The moment was never too big for him. In the big games, the big playoff games, and that's what led to those Super Bowls early in his career. And as he got older, he just became more comfortable in that moment, and that's why we started to see him win in the latter part of his career. Yes, there was a decade drought of him not winning. Got there twice.
But he was consistently in the playoffs.
Of course.
Even though there was a drought, it was consistency in the playoffs. Like, it's one thing to where he started off winning his career, but he had a dark playoff spell. No, that guy was consistently in the playoffs year in and year out.
No, of course. Again, that speaks to his success, and he continued to work on his game. He didn't his. You look at his throwing motion from back then to now, it's night and day. He just completely got better. He's a winner, perfectionist, and like I said, ultimate teammate. He was a guy that carried everyone around him. Didn't matter who was the wide receiver. You look at the plethora of wide receivers he's thrown the ball to, tight ends, running backs out the backfield. If you're open, he's going to give you the ball. And he never shortcutted anything. He went all out. He gave it his all, even up until the end, like you talked about against the Rams. I mean, he didn't lay down. Some other guys, they could have just laid down 27-3.
Yeah, Rodgers would have laid down.
Yeah, I mean, just again, cut from a different cloth. He just cut from a different cloth, man. And again, I think a lot of it has to do with how his career started. 6th round pick. We know the documentaries, the Brady 6, the Man in the Arena that's going on right now. Timelining his entire career, and he's my favorite player. Obviously, he brought a lot of joy to my life, being a football fan, being a Patriot fan. And he's just an excellent player, man. Definitely a guy that when you look at football, easily on the Mount Rushmore of football players. Whoever you want to put up there, you got to put Tom there. I mean, he has more championships than any other franchise in NFL history. That speaks for itself. And then he got the ultimate one against the Chiefs. And when he was on the Bucs, he got one without Bill. That one also just puts him that put him in a different class as well, because a lot of people said, was it Bill, was it Tom? I never played that game. I still to this day still feel like it's 100-100. But he left. He went to Tampa. He brought that team to a standard that they haven't seen, like you said, in about 20 years, 19 years. Got them a Super Bowl, and he's a legend. He's a legend. He's the greatest. To me, he's the greatest football player of all time, greatest quarterback of all time. What can you say? I know the media is they're already trying to anoint this guy, that guy's the next Brady. It's hard to win in this league, man, and I think that's why his accomplishments are so crazy. I mean, 7 Super Bowls, you go to 10, you win 7. It's not like basketball. It's not like baseball where it's a 7-game series.
It's
you get
one game.
shot. Right. You get one shot. And 6 out of 7 of his Super Bowl rings, they're game-winning drives. It's like you can't script that. You can't. No one else could do that. You can't copycat that. I know there's been a lot of talented guys.
Yeah, and
there's a lot of talented guys right now in the AFC that are playing quarterback, and we'll see how their career folds. We'll see what happens. It's definitely a gauntlet of guys, and we'll see who ends up on top when it's all said and done in this era.
Mm-hmm.
The last era, obviously Tom is cream of the crop. His battles with Peyton, his battles with Ben, battles with Phillip. Got the best of all of those guys, man. Just because he's like he said, he's the ultimate alpha when it comes to the quarterback position. Tough to see him go, but again, definitely glad that he created a lot of memories that I'll never forget. And see you soon, man. Hopefully they'll do him right. Do the ceremony when he retires as a Patriot, and put his name in the Ring of Honor, retire his jersey number. And then when 2027 comes around, he'll be inducted to the Hall.
Mm-hmm, absolutely, and I will say, whenever there's going to be whenever Brady has a speech about the Patriots, expect CJ to bawl like a baby, because I know for sure you shed some tears after hearing the Brady announcing his retirement. But I also want to. What's crazy to me is
I wasn't.
What's crazy. I will say what's crazy to me is in his first 4 years as a starter, the man won 3 rings. He won 3 rings in a span of 4 years early in his career. He could have retired after like 2007 if he wanted to and been in the Hall of Fame. Like he could have even retired after he got ring number 4 and would have been first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, but the
man had the drive. He was built different. He had the drive. He had the determination. And Christian says Stafford next man up. Yeah, all right. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see what happens when you got to take care of Joe Burrow first. But we'll see what happens there. Also, for anybody in the color cast, if you want to be in the hot seat, throw in a request. CJ and I will make sure that you get on, and we'll see what happens. You know what? I can't have my man Christian disrespecting him like that. I calling him Joe Kitty Cat. I can't have that. That's a disrespect. You can't be disrespecting Joe Burrow like that. And Brady has a great career. Going to be in Canton, Ohio. 100%. And it's going to be exciting. To see what Tom Brady's next steps are. It'll be interesting to see whenever the next Man in the Arena episode is uploaded and posted. I've watched all 9 of them already. I caught up and watched all 9. So I'll be excited to wait and see for number 10.
Yes, sir. Excited for that as well. All right. Let's get to these conference championship games. Let's start with the AFC conference championship game.
Oh, and CJ, did you notice the background that I put in? It's it's Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase's fathers. They're both smoking on that Chiefs pack.
Yes, sir. I did see that.
You had to do it.
That's a great picture. Great picture, man. And we're gonna get to that game now. 27-24. Bengals get it done in overtime. They were down 21-3. Appreciate you pulling that up for the viewers on Facebook and on IG and other platforms. What a game. What a game, man. I mean, it was first half. It was really a tale of two halves. First half, the Chiefs were just really completely dominating the Bengals, doing everything on offense. It seemed like everybody was open. Got one to Kelsey, got one to Hardman, one to Tyreek Hill as well. And then right before that, right before the second half, 5 seconds left, Mahomes tossed it to Tyreek. They weren't able to get in the end zone. I think that was the big momentum change for the Bengals. And then once the second half came around, I mean, they changed their defense. They only rushed 3, dropped 8.
Mm-hmm.
Mahomes looked confused in there, wasn't sure what to do. And it worked out to their success. I mean, for me, I look at a couple plays. I look at that 3rd and 7 by Joe, get rolling out in the pocket. Chris Jones, tackles him too high. Should have went low, tackled him high. He was able to get out the pocket, get 7 yards, get the first down. That was a big one. Another play where he rolled out, gave it to Chase. It's just some big time plays by Burrow, man. He was able to use his feet. I think a lot of people underrate his athleticism, underrate his mobility as a quarterback. At LSU, he was definitely moving out the pocket and rolling out. You look at the national championship game, had a quarterback draw for a touchdown, ran and got like 20 yards up the sideline against Clemson as well. So he's a mobile guy. People think he's just going to stand in the pocket all day, but he's definitely very elusive in that pocket. And they paid for it. Kansas City paid for it. And Kansas City, I gotta point the blame to Mahomes, Eric Bieniemy, and Andy Reid. I mean, Andy Reid says Eric Bieniemy calls the plays. Then in the post-game press conference, he says Andy Reid was saying he called the plays. So I don't know. I don't know who calls the plays over there, but it doesn't matter who does because their game plan in that second half was terrible. They weren't able to adjust. They didn't call any run plays. Jerry McKinnon was getting 5-6 yards a pop in the first half. They were able to run the ball, and I was able to set up some of those guys to get open when you scheme things up. And they didn't run the ball at all in the second half. They got too cocky. They got too arrogant. And this is what we've seen from Andy Reid. We saw it in Philadelphia as well. He's not a guy that doesn't want to run the ball. He trusts his quarterback. He wants his quarterback to do everything. He doesn't believe in the run game as much, and it led to their demise. And that's why they're home right now. And the Bengals are in the Super Bowl. Got to give Zach Taylor a lot of credit. Got to give the defensive coordinator from the Bengals a lot of credit. These guys on the Bengals on this defense, they're not big time names. They're not all pros. They're not pro bowlers. Look at Jesse Bates. I know people want to get on Eli Apple. It's a lot of it he puts on himself with some of the comments that he's made over the last couple of weeks. But he made a big play in the second half, big time play. I mean, before the second half. Tackling Tyreek Hill. Tyreek scores right there. We're talking 28-3.
28-10.
Yeah. 28-10, excuse me, at 28-10, and it's a completely different ball game. Eli Apple is Diggs without the picks. Yeah, he's definitely known for getting burnt 100%.
Diggs without the picks.
But he almost did a Tracy Porter, sent it to the crib in overtime, dropped their interception.
That was a bad drop too.
It was a bad drop, and then Mahomes again.
And then he had the audacity. He also had the audacity to talk some trash after the game. It's like, boy, you lucky you even on the Bengals, you bona fide scrub.
Yeah, listen, I'm not an Eli Apple defender. I'm just saying, but he made when it was time to make a play.
Oh, absolutely.
He made a play. He made a play, and that's all you need. That's all you need. And like I said, the rest of that secondary, Trey Hendrickson, a guy from the Saints. That went to Cincinnati, made big time plays. Sam Hubbard as well, big time plays in that game. That defensive line, got to give them a lot of credit. The linebackers, they just wanted it. They wanted it more than the Chiefs. I guess the Chiefs thought the Bengals were just going to lay down and just give them the W, and it doesn't work like that in football. And they earned this W, and that's why they're in the Super Bowl. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, CJ. I feel like what changed during the game had to have been at halftime. And you also got to look at what's crazy about Andy Reid's coaching career. He's done the same thing in Philadelphia. Remember, in Philly, he also went to 4 consecutive NFC championship games, but only won 1. But he didn't have a Super Bowl in there. He didn't have a Super Bowl. What happens in Kansas City? He also has 4 straight AFC championship games. This time, though, he's gone to 2 Super Bowls and has won 1. And and to be quite frank, he's lucky he even has a ring. If it wasn't for Shanahan pulling a nice old choke job in the fourth quarter with 6 minutes left, he would have been ringless. And, you also got to look at for Kansas City, you got to be very concerning because that Mahomes contract is coming up. You signed him up 10 years, $500 million. That's going to come up and eat your cap space. Kelsey's getting up there in age, and it's going to be very hard to solidify that team. Your window is slowly closing. Slowly but surely. And, especially when
tough to say closing because you got Mahomes.
What I'm saying is when you want to win.
Right.
Everybody thought Seattle and the Legion of Boom was going to be the next dynasty. They beat the crap out of Peyton Manning and the Broncos. They make it back again, Super Bowl 49. And they pass at the 1. And the rest is history. They've never been the same since.
Yeah.
For Kansas City, after they won Super Bowl 54, they make it back the following year, get absolutely shredded by Todd Bowles and that Bucs defense. And now this year, blowing an 18-point. It's one thing if it was a close game. It's back and forth. It's understandable. But you were up 18 at home in Arrowhead, and you pull that. Oh man, like Patrick Mahomes, you ain't getting a pass on that one. Like that's his first bad playoff loss. And great QBs always have those bad playoff losses. Brady lost to the Jets in 2010. That was his bad playoff loss. Peyton Manning has had bad playoff loss in the past as well. Peyton Manning in 2005 lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers when they were a 60. And even Aaron Rodgers has had countless bad playoff losses year in, year out. and great QBs, they always have those bad playoff losses.
Yeah,
simply,
it's going to happen. Nobody's going to play perfect every game. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then Christian, the Colicast comment said, pull the Shanahan. Nah, for Shanahan, it's either got to be 10 points or 25. There's no in between. When you got a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter, you're Kyle Shanahan, you got to bank on him blowing it, which, we will get into whenever we get into the NFC Championship game. But, overall, that's the reason why I say that's a bad loss for the Chiefs is just because the opportunity was there to win another one. And you never take these opportunities for granted. Even you look at for my Green Bay Packers, like if Rodgers is gone, man, we're fucked. We're constantly year in, year out. Oh, we're a playoff contender. Oh, we're gonna make the NFC Championship game. All this, all that. When that dude's out the building, you're not gonna make it back there, and you're gonna look back at those moments and say, "Damn, I really should have taken those moments for granted." Kansas City, you've been on a 4-year run of making it to the AFC Championship game. Your time's going to run out. Your time might run out sooner rather than later because you got to think Big Truss and the Ravens, they coming. They're going to be fully healthy next year. Like Lamar Jackson, Lamar Jackson is probably listening to all of the Connie hate that he spreads, on the hard count, whether he's saying he's peaked. Whether he calls her a running back, which I like to egg on too, but, he's probably going to listen to that and, he wants to win. And then you also got to look at as well in the AFC West, just in general, like you look at the Chargers with Herbert, they're going to go on a vengeance tour. Imagine if Nathaniel Hackett brings in old man Rodgers, that'll be something. Now, I personally don't think he will just because, Denver thinks they will. They have a false sense of hope, but it won't happen. He ain't going to Denver. Come on now. Rodgers don't want that AFC smoke. We'll see what happens, but the man's going into year 18 at age 38. I don't think he wants to mess with the young bucks in the AFC. I don't really think he'd want that. And even if he did, he'll be lucky to get a wild card spot. He won't even win the division. And that is a fact. But in the AFC Championship game, I want to say congratulations to the Bengals. If you were to tell me, CJ, in August or September, that the Cincinnati Bengals not only would win the AFC North, not only would win a playoff game, but would represent the AFC in the Super Bowl, I would have said, yo, what you smoking? Because I want some of what you're having because you want you want a bean and you want some crack. Whatever you're on, you're on some of that good stuff.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
did they prove it. Boy, did they prove us all wrong. I mean, hell, I even had the Bengals. I'll admit it. I had the Bengals only winning 2 games. I didn't like the Bengals at all. I didn't like how they drafted Chase. I didn't like how their roster was set up. I didn't like Zach Taylor. I thought he was going to get fired after this year. He's going to be on the hot seat. I didn't like it. But, man, did they prove us all wrong. And one thing is for certain. If Zach Taylor does not win Coach of the Year, it's a crime. I know I put $10 on Matt LaFleur earlier in the season, plus $2,500 to possibly win $250. But, I mean, Matt LaFleur was pathetic against the 49ers. You know, his daddy Shanahan pretty much owned him, you know, that game. And
I mean, they counted for. I don't know when they stopped voting for these awards.
I know, but the Bengals also had 10 wins. Hell, Matt LaFleur won 13 games last year. If they give it to Kevin Stefanski, who won 11. So we'll see what happens. But I just think, you know, if Taylor doesn't win Coach of the Year, it's a crime. You know, it truly is a crime. Now, granted, I'd love to win $250, but, you know, it would be a crime if Zach Taylor didn't win Coach of the Year, just because of the expectations going into this year were bare minimum. The expectation was like, please win 6 to 7 games. Please just show some improvement. And then to equate that with a Super Bowl appearance, I mean, the Bengals are at a point to where, so what? You know, you want to win a Super Bowl? Absolutely. But even if you don't, it's just like, man, you know, this team is coming. Like the Bengals, they're going to have some expectations next year. Like, hey, you know, maybe the Bengals are going to be one of the teams to beat in the AFC now. And it's crazy to me because nobody saw this coming. Nobody saw the Cincinnati Bengals being a 4th seed and making this kind of run. The run that they have been going on is spectacular. It's phenomenal. And I will say that rookie kicker Evan McPherson, even though he struggled early in the season, I remember when he had a bunch of missed kicks when it was the Packers-Bengals game and he was struggling. Boy, has he turned it around. And he has become clutch in the playoffs. I mean, just think, CJ, back-to-back weeks. He kicked the walk-off against Tennessee. He's kicked the walk-off here versus Kansas City. When you need Evan McPherson to make a kick, 9 times out of 10, he makes that kick, and he is coming up clutch. And, you know, for the Bengals, you know, we'll see what happens because they're going to have a tough competition versus the Los Angeles Rams. And, you know, what I also think is unique also about this year's Super Bowl, for the second consecutive year, CJ, the host city will host this team. Last year, it was Tampa Bay and the Buccaneers. Yeah. Now it's Los Angeles and the Los Angeles Rams. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be exciting. You know, congratulations on the Bengals for representing the AFC. You know, as the YouTuber Tom Grossi would say, the kitty goes meow. You know, I know Connie tried to throw in there. It's like, what is that? I was like, it was a famous YouTuber. I thought people knew, but turns out some people don't. But, you know, the kitty goes meow, and they're going to the Super Bowl.
Right. Yeah, I just want to make also a couple points before we get to the NFC Conference Championship game, Rams and the 49ers. Again, I mean, teams can't be afraid of the Chiefs. Just you can't be afraid. You can't just play safe. I understand too high. You can't give up the deep pass to Tyreek Hill. I understand it, but you got to have a sense of urgency when you're out there. You can't just lay down and just let the Chiefs, you know, drive down the field on you and just score touchdowns over and over again. Like, you got to play with some type of fight. And you really got to credit this Bengals defense. I feel like they did a great job of that. Like I said, a lot of teams would have just laid down, being down 21-3. 21-10 going into the half, and to me this doesn't feel like a fluke year for the Bengals because they have a guy at quarterback. You have a guy at quarterback that's going to be there for the next 10 to 12 years. You're always going to have a shot, and this is his second year in the NFL. And now he's in the Super Bowl. And this is a team that's not even really complete. I mean, they still could fix that offensive line, who did a much better job in the AFC Conference Championship game than what they did in the divisional round, giving up 9 sacks against Tennessee. They did a much better job in the AFC Conference Championship game. I picked Kansas City because I just wasn't sure if that offensive line would hold up, and they did. They did a good job. They was able to protect Burrow at certain moments, and also Burrow was able to use his mobility, like I said earlier, to roll out the pocket and give it to Higgins. T. Higgins is big time. I mean, they're gonna double chase. They got a safety over the chase, and Higgins was really capitalizing on those one-on-ones, made some real contested catches. He had 6 receptions for a $108. He had a great game. Osama went down, a really nice security blanket for Burrow in the seams and short intermediate routes. He went down, and they didn't miss a step. Tyler Boyd as well made some big-time catches early in that game to get some certain drives and get into a rhythm for the offense. So, they're a team. They're a team with no fear, man. They feel like they're right there. I know the Rams, they have a lot of talent. They have a multitude of talent all over on both sides of the field, but it's definitely going to be a chess match between both of these teams. And then we'll just go right into the NFC Conference Championship game with the 49ers and the Rams. 49ers up 17-7 in the fourth quarter.
Shanahan 10 special.
And Tart, dropped a big time interception. I always say, I mean, you can't catch the ball with your body, man. You just can't do it, man.
Tart took a shot on that one.
Yeah, you got to use your hands. I mean, that's a big time play. That's a momentum changing play, and maybe could have been a game sealing play. And he didn't make it happen. Cooper Kupp is just. I mean, what can you say? What can you say? I mean, I don't know why he's not getting. I feel like he still doesn't get a lot of credit. I don't know if it's because he's a white wide receiver. I have no idea, but he's elite. You have the Triple Crown, almost 2,000 yards receiving, double team, triple team. It seems like it doesn't matter. I think him and McVay and Stafford, they've done a great job of creating plays and scheming him up to get open. He has a great chemistry with Stafford. It feels like they've been playing for 5-6 years. It's their first year together, and look at the numbers that he's put up. And he put up really good numbers with Jared Goff under center as well. So he's elite. I'm glad he's getting his flowers. I'm glad he's showing that his worth. It's his second time in the Super Bowl as well. The defense really played well.
Kupp wasn't there. I don't think Kupp was there when they made the Super Bowl the first time because he had an ACL injury.
Oh, yeah, the ACL. That's right. But still, as a Ram, but now he's able to play in this game now and make an impact. And we'll see how he plays. And McVay got over the hump. We talked about 6-0 against Shanahan, and Shanahan is his dad, and all these type of narratives that have been swirling around over the last couple years, and especially in that division. And he got over the hump. I feel like what it really came down to was the Rams had a better quarterback, plain and simple. Garoppolo, he's good, but he's limited. I don't know what the 49ers were. I don't know what their game plan was. Like once they stopped the run, it was like everything they just stopped doing everything. I mean, Debo stopped getting the ball. Kittle didn't really get the ball. Kittle only had three receptions. Debo had 4 receptions all game. You got to get those guys the ball. Those are your playmakers. Those are guys that get yards after the catch. They extend drives with their ability. And I just feel like they didn't really get the ball enough in that game, even though they had a nice little lead. But you gotta seal the game, and they didn't give it to their best guys. Even though they had touchdowns, but I just still feel like they didn't do more. And they could have done more. You got to put that on Shanahan. You got to put that on Mike McDaniels, offensive coordinator, in terms of play calling in that game. And Matthew Stafford went to his guys. Odell, 9 receptions, $113, big time. I mean, he's been big time ever since he's been acquired by the Rams. 9 touchdowns and 6 touchdowns in 9 games in the regular season. And then going into the playoffs, he's made some big time plays for them as well, being that second guy with Robert Woods going down with the ACL. So, I feel like this is a great Super Bowl that we're about to see. Both of these teams deserve to be here and how they played in the playoffs. And it's going to be a great game. A lot of talent on for both teams, especially on offense. I mean, both teams have a number 1 and a number 2 and a really good quarterback. And I think the defenses are really good as well. Again, I know the Rams have more names that may be known to the casuals, but the Bengals have some really good players as well. And it's going to be a great chess match because Zach Taylor came from McVay's coaching tree. So I'm really interested to see, what happens in terms of schematics and how they call plays. I think it's going to be a great Super Bowl. I think it's going to be one of the best. What was your thoughts on this NFC Conference Championship game?
Man, what are my thoughts on this NFC Championship game? I thought it was a great performance by the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, you look at you were down 10 in the Super Bowl. Christian, I sent a request for you for the hot seat on a colorcast for 5 minutes. If you'd like to join in, you are more than welcome to. He in the colorcast section said Aaron Donald Super Bowl MVP. So I mean, I think it's gonna be very interesting to see what happens on that part. But overall, this was a great win by the Los Angeles Rams, and their key guys delivered. Donald
Yeah.
delivered. Also, Odell Beckham Jr. The man had over 100 yards, and people were saying he was washed, but he ain't washed. He's just getting started.
Yeah, again, I mean, I feel like you want to for the Odell situation. It's to me. I feel like Stefanski is not getting any of the blame. I know a lot of people want to pile on to Baker because he may have a certain personality that people may not like, and then plus he has a lot of commercials, and they feel like he hasn't really done much in the NFL. So why is he getting all the success? So he's going to develop a lot of haters based on his personality. Some people don't like it, but I feel like Stefanski as well. Like I don't feel like he did a great job of scheming things up for Odell, getting him open. You look at McVay, as soon as first play of the game for the Rams offense, pass to Odell. Like you gotta give him the ball. You gotta let him get into a rhythm, give him some type of confidence to get things going. And I just feel like Stefanski, that coaching staff on the offense for the Browns, really never did that. And I think that also had a lot to do with why he wasn't successful. Yes, he was hurt, he had the ankle ACL too, but when he was healthy, I just feel like he didn't really get as many opportunities as we see. It was games we only had like 4 targets. Like, come on, he's your number one guy. He's only getting 4 targets in a game. I feel like that's unacceptable. So, but again, greener pastures in LA, and he's made the most of it. Got to give him a lot of credit, man. He silenced a lot of haters in this time with the Rams.
Absolutely. And then while we're on the subject here for Colorcast, I got Dustin here going on the mic here for 5 minutes. Avid Browns fan. Just want to get his overall thoughts here on this NFC Championship game and just championship weekend as a whole. What's going on, Dustin?
What's going on, brother? We can talk about the whole situation with Odell when it comes to the Browns. First of all, the Browns' offense was never designed for a superstar wide receiver like OBJ. It was never designed that way. It's especially Stefanski. It was supposed to be more of a run-heavy. You'll pass when you need to. Baker should be getting over 23 or 24 attempts a game, if you ask me. Nick Chubb should be getting 20 carries, especially when Kareem Hunt was healthy. You can switch whatever running back. That offense was built to run the football. It was never built for Odell to shine. That's just period. And I'm going to be honest, Baker Mayfield's not exactly the best quarterback. A lot of people want to argue that fact, but he's just not. I don't think that he's some mind-blowing quarterback. He's not going to be able to make plays for Odell. He's missed Odell plenty of times down the seam. Odell's gotten open plenty of times down the seam, and Baker didn't even throw it to him. So let's be honest. I think a lot of OBJ's problems in Cleveland that it was never designed for him to succeed, and Baker Mayfield wasn't good enough to get the plays. Now, if we're going to talk about the Super Bowl, the Rams and the Bengals, my biggest thing is here's my issue. I think the Bengals offensive line is going to get ate alive. It's going to get ate for breakfast. Yeah. Like I don't think that the Bengals are going to be able to have 2.5 seconds in the pocket. They better do a lot of screen plays to slow it down. The defense isn't really good enough to hold Matt Stafford, and Cooper Kupp is going to cook the Bengals secondary. Cook it. It's going to be a bad day. There's probably maybe one guy in that secondary that's formidable. And I'm telling you, Cooper Kupp, he's going to slice him. We're not even talking about OBJ yet. I don't think Bengals have much of a chance. I believe them in the AFC playoffs, and I thought they were good enough to maybe pull out a victory against the Chiefs, but this Rams team is just too good. And that defensive line is going to kill them. The defensive line for the Bengals, again, I've already said their trenches are horrible. Both sides of the ball, their trenches are horrible. They're terrible getting off the ball. This is going to be a wild ride for Bengals. Now, do I think it's going to be a blowout? Maybe not. Maybe Joe Burrow pulls out something. But I don't have too much hope for the Bengals in the Super Bowl, if I was going to be just frankly honest.
Yeah, it's gonna be very tough, especially when you got to verse not only Aaron Donald, but Von Miller as well. And then on top of that, you got to worry about Jalen Ramsey too. That's gonna be that's gonna be a tough one there. We got Christian in the comments section say Rams -4, free Stimmy. We'll definitely see what happens there on that front. And one thing is for certain, Eli Apple, he's gonna turn into a crisp apple. After Cooper Kupp and OBJ just put on.
To respond to CJ about Kevin Stefanski, I actually think CJ's kind of right. Stefanski got away from what the Browns were supposed to be. The reason we made the playoffs was because of that run game, because of using Baker as play action, is because of just letting him kind of play off the run and have some support. This season, he was getting away from that. He was not running the ball as much. He wasn't doing what he was supposed to do, and he almost took his own success sheet and threw it in the garbage. So I actually agree with CJ. It's not all about Baker, but I would say it's about 70-30 Baker's fault. If you ask me, Baker is I don't know, dude. I don't trust him. I don't think he can win a football game with his arm.
I mean, he did beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, but that was mystical, dude. And again, some of that was because of the defense, and a lot of it was because of the defense. And second of all, the run game was also explosive.
Yeah.
Absolutely, definitely was successful. One last time, Dustin, you got 15 seconds left. Bengals or Rams? Who do you think's win the Super Bowl?
Rams by 7.
Rams by 7. All right, thank you, Dustin. Always a pleasure to have you on the hot seat.
Thanks for stopping by, brother.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Unwrapped members own Dustin Hunt, diehard Cleveland Browns fan. Seen a lot of misery, but saw them make the playoffs last year. We'll definitely see what happens with them. And, my overall personal thoughts as well in the NFC Championship game, following up on it, Stafford got lucky that Tart dropped that interception. If Tart makes that interception, man, oh man, is that going to be a tough hit on Matthew Stafford. Because you got to think at that time, they were up by 10. They were either up 10 or they were either down 10 or down 3. No, you know what? They were down 10. They were down
10, yeah.
Yeah, they were down 10, and then that same drive, CJ, that resulted in them cutting that field goal to 7. And then eventually we know what happens. They cut it to 7, or either they cut it to 7 or Kupp had a touchdown. One of those things happened. And what was great about that game was, Stafford made plays when he needed to, and all the moves Rams have made have paid off. They went all in to get Von Miller, went all in, signed OBJ off the streets of Cleveland, went all in to trade for Stafford. So far, it's paid off as they got into the Super Bowl. Now they have to get it done.
Yes.
I mean, you got to think about it. There's more pressure on the Rams than the Bengals because if you're the Rams, this is a home game.
Exactly.
This is a home game. You can't lose a Super Bowl at home because normally when you lose a Super Bowl, at least you could fly home, man. You just got to wash away from it. When it was Chiefs and Niners, that was all the way down in Miami. Both teams were going to fly. Whether you either fly home a champ or you fly home a loser. If you're the Rams and you lose at home, you got nowhere to go. You're just there. You're just like, we lost. It'd be a double whammy because it's like you're losing 2 home games. You lose a regular home game, and then you lose a Super Bowl. That's like a double whammy. Like, the Rams can't afford to lose at SoFi Stadium. They just can't.
Yeah, they have to win this game, man, for all the reasons you just alluded to.
Yeah, they have to. And also, just when you look at it, can you imagine, though, if Cincinnati wins the Super Bowl? Joe Burrow was in his freaking second year. And in the span of 3 years, he would have won a Heisman, won a national championship, and win a Super Bowl champion. No player has done that yet.
Yeah.
Players have come close. I think the closest the players ever come was Cam Newton in 2015. Cam Newton won a Heisman when he was at Auburn. He won the MVP that year in 2015 and got to Super Bowl 50. That's the closest we've seen a quarterback come to completing those 3 features. If Burrow can do that, boy, is it going to be special for Cincinnati. And not only just for the city of Cincinnati, but for the whole state of Ohio. Remember when the Cavs won the NBA Finals in 2016? That was the first title for like the city of Cleveland in over like 50 plus years. But can you imagine for like the state of Ohio how thrilling that was? Now, can you imagine if Cincinnati, the Bengals, we used to call them the Bungles because of how bad they were, because they will bungle situations. If they win the Super Bowl, it's going to be a party down in Cincinnati. It's going to be crazy. But, just overall, it was a great win by the Rams. Stafford played phenomenal. They got Stafford for this reason, to get to a Super Bowl. And they've gotten there. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the Super Bowl. Now, if I had to pick a team, not going to lie, I'm going with the Bengals just for Joe Burrow. I saw Joe Burrow at LSU. He brought, because my sister goes to LSU. She was a freshman when they won the national championship. Brought pure joy, thrilling. That Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. I always got love for those 3. Even though Jefferson's in a Vikings uniform, I hate it because we got to play him twice a year. Still got love for Justin Jefferson. And I got love for Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow as they're tearing up in Cincinnati. I love what they're doing. And I also love the LSU representation, CJ. You got to think. Andrew Whitworth, LSU. OBJ, LSU. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, LSU. Somebody's going to hit a gritty. Somebody will hit a gritty. I can give you that. Now, I won't hit a gritty. You won't see me do the gritty. It'll be terrible. It'll be terrible if I ever attempted it. Like if I ever tried that, it would look terrible. Now,
I don't think we want to see that, man.
No one wants to see that. But I do want to ask this question to you, CJ. If the Bengals do win the Super Bowl, will you do an honorary gritty in the Timbs?
Nah. That's not my team. If that was my team, then yeah, maybe. But that's not my squad. But I'm pretty sure a lot of people are gonna be doing the gritty if they the whole parade might do it if they win the Super Bowl. The whole city, the whole block, and the streets gonna be sealed off just for that dance. But
the whole block.
Tough task.
What did you do when the Pats won the Super Bowl? When you went to those, because you had to have gone to at least one of those parades, right?
No, I haven't. I never went to a parade. No,
what? You never went?
Earlier, the ones in the earlier years, I was in school, obviously.
Didn't have a chance. Education, working on the grind.
I was like 8, 9, 10 years old. So definitely, it was slow. It was slow for those parades back then. And then other 3 years, the other years, I was just couldn't make it, man. But it would have been a great experience, but yeah, it was either way. It was still a great time, either watching it on TV.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great time now. Now, what's gonna be interesting to see? And then Perry in the comment section saying Skura will be looking like Schefter. I probably would.
Yeah.
I probably would.
He really thought he was hitting it too in the Monday Night Football.
He was going like this. He was almost had like his hands up. Like
that will be.
I would hit a better gritty than Schefter. Come on now.
Think so?
I mean, perhaps I wouldn't hurt my knee like he did. I could tell you that. I could try. I mean, but it would be terrible.
Yeah, he really thought he had it, man. He was really trying to show out for Jefferson. So that was hilarious. He'll always be remembered for that, man.
Yeah, that's gonna be crazy. Now, one thing will be crazy is I know we have some California people. I know we got Perry and a Christian, in there as well. Yeah. If the Rams win the Super Bowl, you best believe they're going to be at the parade. I was already talking to Christian. I was talking to him earlier. I'm just like, yo, like what, if they do win the Super Bowl, what's going to happen? You know, like if they do win it, what are you going to do? And you know, he said to me, I'll pull it up. I said, if the Rams win, will you be at the parade? He said, if the Rams win, I'm driving down the city or rioting. You know, he's going to join in the whole parade stuff. So I'm just like, hey, you know, if they win, I want to see it.
Of course. Why not, man? Definitely would be great to experience that.
Yeah,
Being a fan. Should do it.
Go ahead.
No. I was just saying you should do it, man. It's a great experience.
Yeah, it definitely will be. I think we saw Ethan throwing out Imani Bates to enter the transfer portal. I think that's like a college basketball relay. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I haven't really followed college basketball yet. With football going on right now, a little bit NBA. I do remember a lot of Bates. He was at Memphis. He's going to leave now, according to Ethan. Big news. We'll see what happens. I haven't really seen any of his games so far this season. So wish him nothing but success. Hopefully he can work on his game and get ready for the A.
Get ready for the A indeed. And is there anything else to talk? You know what? I do have one last thing to talk about. Since we pretty much kind of dove into all of the stuff that's gone down. There was another head coach hired. It was I'm going to throw in the Brian Daboll. Do you think Daboll will have any success? Do you think Daboll will have any success with the Giants? Because you got to think Daboll was with Josh Allen. Josh Allen had a year 1, year 2, but year 3 was when he took off and he went to the AFC Championship game. Danny Dimes has been Danny Givens, you know, his first 2 years because he's been giving, you know, the other team the ball.
Yeah.
If he's going into year 3 with Brian Daboll this time as his head coach, do you think there'll be any signs of improvement? Or do you think it's not going to be, or do you think, you know, Danny Givens is just going to be, you know, just putrid?
Yeah, I'm rooting for Daboll as well. He was with the Patriots for, you know, a very long time, won 5 Super Bowls in New England. Pretty much did everything there with the coaching staff. For the Giants, they got to fix that offensive line. I mean, this has been a topic for the Giants since, you know, even since Eli was there. Even like the few years before Eli even thought about retiring, the offensive line has been a problem. They still haven't been able to figure that out. So that should be their number one priority. And then Daniel Jones, yeah, he's going to have to improve in the offseason as a pocket passer. He's going to have to work on his passing ability. He does have athleticism. He's very athletic, but he's going to have to improve as a passer. And again, if the defense is solid, you know, I think Pat Graham did a really good job. I don't know if they're going to bring him back as defensive coordinator, but I think he did a really good job with that defense last year. And even the year before that as well. But I mean, all in all, Daboll, you know, he's a solid coach. He got an opportunity with the Giants, but it's going to come down to Daniel Jones. This is a big year for him. He's going to have to prove that he's a franchise guy, and if not, they're going to look elsewhere. So John Mara came out and said, you know, they haven't really given him any type of opportunities to succeed, which I do agree with. But they do have some solid weapons. We'll see what they do with Saquon. Will they give him an extension? They got some solid wide receivers. You got to pay Sterling Shepard.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if Kenny Golladay gets a touchdown because that scrub didn't even do anything.
Yeah, he was hurt. I mean, that's kind of been the narrative of his career. You know, when he's on the field, he's really good, but it's just when he's on the field, and he hasn't been healthy over the last few years. Yeah, it's a lot of questions still to be answered with the Giants, man. Joe Shine coming from Buffalo as well with Brian Daboll. They have a pairing similar to what we saw with Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels in Vegas. It's a winnable division. I mean, the Eagles made it. The Cowboys, you know, they're talented. They're better. They have the better team overall. But as we've seen over the years in the NFC East, I mean, it's really up and down. One team wins it one year, the next year, and it's another team comes out of nowhere. So
you know, the NFC South is wide open too. Like, they're going to be a lot.
Yeah, definitely. So it's just going to come down to whether they just got to figure out that O-line, man. If they figure out that O-line, and that O-line is right, and then if Daniel Jones is going to be that guy, he has to improve as a pocket passer and minimize the turnovers.
Absolutely. The New York Giants are going to be one of the most interesting teams, in this offseason because if they get everything right, they could easily be possibly the second best team in the NFC East. Now, they pretty much have to hit everything right because, Philadelphia
Yes.
is right there. But,
Yeah, Washington's there too. I mean, they're there too. I mean, it's just
the
at the
NFC
end,
East could be competitive.
it's just Dak is the better quarterback. He's the best
Yeah,
quarterback in
but
that
not in
division
the
right now.
playoffs, though.
Right, yeah. Not in the playoffs, he hasn't performed, but in that division, he's the best quarterback. So until a guy steps up and challenges him out of one of those three other teams, they're gonna keep being either winning that division or getting the playoffs with a wild card. Because again, they have the talented team and they have the best quarterback in the division right now.
Absolutely, they most certainly do. And one last thing before, obviously, CJ, do you want to give us our Super Bowl picks right now, or are we waiting till next week?
Yeah, I'm gonna wait till next. Yeah, I'm gonna wait till next week.
Alrighty,
To
all right,
give the
then
Super
we'll
Bowl
wait.
picks.
All right, we'll wait till next week then. In case if I'm not on that next week, I mean, God, I will say for this Super Bowl, I won't give my picks until next week. But for this year's Super Bowl, I'm very excited to watch for both sides because
Yeah,
in years past, I could root for one side over the other just because either my team, choked hella hardcore in the playoffs, like Shanahan 25-point lead bad, but it's just one of those to where this year's Super Bowl, you either got Joe Burrow or Matthew Stafford. Both QBs are deserving of a ring. And you also got to look at for Matthew Stafford, you're in year 13. This is your best shot. If you don't win a ring, I don't think you're gonna get one. Like times like this,
well, yep.
you can't take for granted.
Yeah.
Times like this. I mean, you look at for example. God, let me look back at a team that hasn't been like even the Seahawks. The Seahawks went to back-to-back Super Bowls, 48 and 49. They've never been back since.
Almost a decade.
And they've only won once. It's almost a decade. We're going on year 7. Even you look at for my Green Bay Packers, we made it all the way back in Super Bowl 45. Just been 11 years going on year 12.
Yes, sir. It's tough.
You
tough to win, man.
You can't take it for granted. I mean, unless you're Tom Brady, but Besides that, for either one of these teams, both the Bengals or the Rams, especially for the Bengals, because you look for the Bengals, I mean, in your own division, the Ravens are going to be back. Browns, as they fix their quarterback situation. And then with Mahomes and Allen and Herbert, who knows what other NFC quarterback goes to the AFC. The Bengals, this could be it. This could be their last chance to get a Super Bowl in a long time. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, and even the same thing for the Rams too, with their cap situation, them going all in, not having a lot of picks. This is it.
Yeah,
and for Stafford as well. If you want to cement a Hall of Fame legacy, Stafford, get a ring.
I think he gets in regardless. But what
I'm saying is, if he wants to further cement his case.
Right. Yeah.
Instead of being maybe second or third ballot, if he wants to be first, that ring is going to help. That ring will truly help if he's able to get that ring. But we will see. It's going to be an exciting Super Bowl. It's going to be a great halftime show too. You got Snoop, Kendrick Lamar, Eminem, Dr. Dre, Mary J. Blige. You got a wide variety. I think I said her last name wrong, but it's pretty damn
close. You said it right.
There you go. You see? I'm a genius. I know my culture. And, just overall, it's going to be exciting. I'm going to be looking forward to Super Bowl 56. And one thing is for certain, for both of our teams, CJ, for the Packers and the Pats, let's hope for a good offseason for both of our teams. And whenever we play each other this upcoming season, because we do, we got to stream it on here. There's no other option. We have to.
Yeah, man. I'm down for that, for sure, when that happens. Definitely. All right, man. That is going to conclude this episode of The Hard Count. Matt, appreciate you filling in. Backup role, I guess. second string.
You know, I'm like the sixth man. I'm like the sixth man coming off the bench, and when someone gets hurt, I'm the starter.
Coming in for Connie, stepping up, man. Jamal Crawford role. Thank you, man, for pulling up. If you want to just promote what you've been doing in the sports world, that'll be great before we wrap it up.
Yeah, man. So my Twitter handle down below at Matt_Skura, Instagram at Matt_Skura20. Both of those link trees in the bio give access to my sports podcast that me and my great friend Caleb Connie do called MCS Real Sports Podcast. We talk all things NBA and NFL related. You name it, it's available everywhere. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, iHeartRadio, you name it. It's available everywhere. And also check out Primetime with Hoyt and Wise Cheese. We know we go live on Sundays, recapping the games that have gone down, even talking about like the Sunday games as well. We might even be doing the Pro Bowl, February 6th, even though the Pro Bowl not a lot of people tune into, but during that Pro Bowl, we could talk about everything that's gone down. And, just overall, those are my shows that I do. And as always, CJ, always a pleasure to be on the Hard Count.
Yes, sir, man. Again, you can find me here, 9 p.m. Eastern, every Tuesday, covering all things NFL. My guy, Anthony Conover, a.k.a. Connie. Also on Colorcast, C. James, USN, Guard Up Podcast, at Guard Up Pod on IG. On Twitter, like you see here, CJames9_ on Instagram, CJ.James9. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you guys for listening on Colorcast. Everybody listening on tuning on Facebook, YouTube. Thanks again, man. We'll catch you guys next week. Have a good one.
Absolutely. You guys have a great day as well. I also forgot to throw in my Colorcast at Matt Skura USN. Check that out. And for other members of Unwrapped Sports Network, type in USN on Colorcast, and you'll be able to find all the great work there. Definitely a great episode here for the Hard Count, and we will see you next Tuesday.